I want to call the meeting to order. The City of Pflugerville Parks and Rec Commission for Thursday, March 20th at 7 o'clock. On the dot. Citizens communication. The commission welcomes comment on parks and recreation items. Public comment that is made on an item that is not on the public agenda will only be heard by the commission. No forum, action, discussion, or comment will be made. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes and will be asked to state his or her name and address for the public record. Is there anyone here that wants to speak?
Don't see anyone.
I don't see anyone. Okay, we'll move on. Next order of business is the approval of minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read them? There's a copy, and some were mailed out to you guys. You should have got an email. Has everybody had a chance to read them? Make corrections? Any corrections? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second. Take a vote on that?
Did we vote? Everybody approve?
All,
Say aye.
all those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay. Next order of business is discuss only. 4A. Discussion regarding director's update, including information about project status, updates, upcoming special events, and staffing.
Oh, we skipped one. 4A, the City of Pflugerville's mobility master plan.
You're right, 4A.
Okay, so
Discussion. Okay.
we've got Kelly Reese with Kimley Horns here today to give you kind of an overview of our city's mobility master plan process that we're going through currently. This won't be the last time you hear it, but she is here just to kind of give you, like I said, a quick few minutes so that you kind of understand what it is, what we're working on through that process. She'll talk about this, but for purposes of this commission in particular, this incorporates our trails master plan. So it's our transportation plan, comprehensive plan, kind of all put into one. And our trails plan, instead of being a separate document, is incorporated into the mobility master plan. So this is vitally important for what it is that we do. I think we've explained this to the commission before, but for those that are new and maybe haven't heard it, the trails plan dictates, as new development comes in, it dictates where trails are specified to be. So when a new development comes in, it's if that trails master plan says that a trail is going through that parcel, then we work with that developer to put that trail through there. So as Pflugerville continues to grow, which it obviously is, the Trails Master Plan is vital for us to maintain our Trail Capital of Texas title that we have claimed. And you know, we have to continue to make sure that those things in the future are incorporated in these plans as we go. So Kelly will cover this a little bit. I'll pass the torch to Kelly.
Yeah, like Jeff said, my name's Kelly Reese. I work for Kimley Horn, which is the consultant that's been helping with the mobility master plan, and I'm just going to go over where we're at so far. So you have a little bit of a preview before we come to you with the final or draft plan. The mobility master plan, we're going to go over what is the M&P, what input have we gotten so far, the part that's most relevant to y'all, which is the trails plan, and then the other pieces that are part of it that you'll see when it comes out, and then what our next steps are with all of this. First, start with an overview of the M&P itself and then its vision and goals. Kind of how did we get here? Like Jeff mentioned, there's currently lots of documents floating around. Back in 2020, the Pflugerville Forward Transportation Plan was finalized, which really focused on road transportation. And it really helped develop a CIP plan for roadways moving into the future. In 2022, the city's comprehensive plan was updated, and this had a bunch of kind of visionary goals for the city, a lot of things about walkability and 10-minute neighborhoods and a lot of trail investments. That was more of a vision than a kind of actionable plan. In 23, there's the Parks Rec and Open Space Master Plan, and so this currently references the Trails Plan and everything else having to do with Parks and Recreation. And so then this Pflugerville Forward Mobility Master Plan is pulling together all of the pieces of all of these documents that relate to transportation. So there's kind of one comprehensive document moving forward related to the transportation aspects. Kind of summarizing, previously we had several documents. Each of them talked about really one mobility mode at a time, and trails were completely separate. Now all of them are being prioritized the same, or not the same, but all of them are being prioritized as projects together. Trails is integrated within the transportation plan, and then we're looking at all modes of transportation, walking, biking, anything else that folks would like to do. Through public input, with an advisory committee that we have, we've put together the vision for the overall document, which is that the Mobility Master Plan strives to create a sustainable network for multiple transportation options that enhance safety, connectivity, and resiliency for the Pflugerville community and visitors. And then based on that, we also have 6 goals that go under that umbrella. One of them is safety for all users. One of them is connectivity throughout the network for all users. One of them is an effective network, essentially kind of relieving congestion and making sure that things flow together well. Having multiple travel options so that you can get where you want to go the way that you want to get there. Regional partnerships with all the surrounding jurisdictions, TxDOT, Campo, and making sure that things integrate well, and then enhanced communication for Pflugerville residents, and so people are up to speed about what's going on in terms of transportation. In terms of public engagement, we have an advisory committee that was made up of staff and 11 Pflugerville residents. Jeff and Shane have been helping with this, as well as folks in planning and engineering, and then 11 residents that were chosen by council to represent the community and have been giving feedback at about 6 meetings so far. We also had an online website and went out to the public multiple times in outreach opportunities. We're at Deutschenfest, we're at a couple of, Music in the Park? Events around town, trying to catch people where they already were, direct them to our website to give feedback. There's a survey where you could talk about current transportation and what you want to see in the future, and there's also a map where you could leave comments having to do with roadways, trails, walkability, bikeability, anything that you saw today that you wanted improved, things that weren't there today that you want to see in the future. And we got a lot of engagement on that helped form where the plan is going. As far as the trails plan goes, this is the existing trails plan. Sorry, it's a little fuzzy. The plan itself is a little fuzzy, but you can see all of it is really within the city limits for the most part. You've got kind of a spine loop arm classification system where spines get you really from point A to point B. Loops kind of get you between spines, and then arms are sort of, you can think of them like neighborhood roads where they just get you around smaller areas. And so this is laid out, the solid lines are existing trails as of the time that the current map was published, and then the dashes are planned trails. And so we've updated this in a couple of ways. This is the spine loop arm classification that I was talking about. The spine is the big network, the loop kind of fills in the holes, and the arm really finishes out closing those holes. You can see we've made several updates. A lot of it is that the trails plan extends way out into the ETJ. A lot of that is future planning for in a case where that land does get annexed, but we're trying to hold the plan down, like Jeff said, so that as development comes in, we can hold them to it. You can see a lot of orange on the map, which is we're really working to figure out what is classified as a trail in this plan. And so the orange counts for shared use paths that are wide enough that they function as a trail and get people really from point A to point B, but are alongside a road, not kind of a nature type path. And so that's a lot of what we have currently planned in the ETJ, just because it's hard to nail down what's going on in a place that's so undeveloped and unmanaged like that. But there's also several along new creeks. There's a kind of straight across one that follows a power line easement, and so really trying to take advantage of all kind of public spaces that are possibly converted into a trail in the future. We also have a couple critical crossings identified across Pecan Street to really increase the connectivity through there, since it's tough to cross Pecan downtown. There's also several parts where we've coordinated with the city of Hutto, the city of Round Rock, and the city of Austin to make sure that the Pflugerville trail system ties into their trail systems anywhere that they were merging close to each other. And so we've got those connection points in here. There's also several trails that were commented on by the public. Those are the ones with the thumbs up, but serving the public and what they're looking for with this plan as well. In terms of off-street trails, we're adding about 54 miles to what was currently on the plan. You can see several of those are the kind of loop type structure, and a lot of those are along creeks for the future ones. And then off-street, we're adding 138 miles worth of wide paths that can be used like trails, like the ones currently on Pflugerville Parkway. Kind of an overview of what changed. We really filled out the grid on the east side. There are considerations for what is a trail, does it count if it's along a road, and so we've classified those slightly differently. Made sure to tie in with neighboring cities, updated the inventory of the current trail plan to make sure that it matches what's actually been built, since there's been some trails constructed since the last plan. Really paid attention to who counts as a trail user, most especially with vehicles. Does a powered vehicle get to go on the trail? And so some of that classification came down to the off-street trails. There's no powered vehicles allowed. Some of the on-street trails, we're looking at if there's a possibility for vehicles allowed. Identified some of those critical crossings across Pecan Street, and then updated some of the classifications of the spine loop arm to kind of integrate the system better. As a look at just what else is in the MMP, it's mostly roadways and cross sections. The original roadway plan from the TMP published a couple years ago is seen here. It has similar system with arterials, collectors, and local roads is sort of the same as the spine loop arm, but for roadways. You can see again, most of it is within the city limits. There's a little bit planned for in the ETJ. A lot of it is minor roads in the ETJ. And so the MMP has added a bunch of roadways in the ETJ to increase that connectivity. So there's a tighter grid, so it's easier to have options to get from point A to point B. You can see several of the roadways kind of have a highlighted yellow underlay underneath them, and these are roads that are new in the MMP since the TMP published a couple years ago to increase that connectivity. Again, the thumbs up are things that were commented on by the public, and so really trying to make sure that we're integrating the things that people are looking for into the plan. Really what changed we can summarize as we're trying to create options for your options. We're trying to create route options. You can see there's two different neighborhoods. One of them downtown has all sorts of connectivity. If a road's closed, if there's an accident, if there's construction, there's all sorts of ways to get in and out. The other, there's really one choke point to get in and out. And so if queues back up, if there's an emergency, you're stuck on your options. And so we're trying to create that fuller grid with more route options. Looking at mode options, regardless of how you want to get somewhere, the size of vehicle, type of vehicle, your legs, if you're walking, if you want to Uber, if you want to take Fetch a Ride, trying to make sure that all of them are incorporated in a way that you can actually get from point A to point B without gaps. And then also looking at view options, kind of what is the aesthetic. You can see Pecan Street through downtown versus 685 kind of in the Stonehill Center. There's pros and cons to the types of views, but want to make sure that we kind of give a variety of options. In terms of the cross sections, this relates back to the trails a bit because some of the cross sections include elements that we're considering part of the trail network now. You can see at the bottom of each of these slides where we go over the cross sections is what's currently proposed, and the top is what we're proposing with the new MMP. For the most part, the changes can be summarized as we took bike lanes off the street and moved them behind the curb. This helps both with maintenance costs and with safety. We talked a lot about should bike lanes and sidewalks be integrated into wide shared use paths, and for a couple of reasons we kept them separate, mostly due to the vehicle consideration. That way pedestrians can have a complete total separate space and have a spot for powered vehicles to be able to have a network to give more mode options. This minor collector, you can see the bikes have moved behind the street, which is really the major difference. On major collectors, similar. The center is shown as paved, but it can be either way with the two-way left turn or the paving. Really the big difference is that we have that wide strip behind the curb for bikes and other vehicles, and then a separate sidewalk portion. We have an urban section that kind of combines the two. It has the option for the bike or the parking. You obviously have to construct it one way or the other, but for roadways designated as urban, it can be a context sensitive if the parking makes more sense, if the bike makes more sense, if half and half makes sense. This again takes the bike off the road and puts it behind the path or behind the curb. And either in the parking scenario, you would have the wide shared use path, or in the bike scenario, you'd have the mix.
Hey Kelly, how tall is the curb that divides that to the bike lane?
It's typically 6 inches.
Okay.
And so then what's next? Talking with y'all today about kind of where we've gotten to this point, but we're close to having the document put together, and are going to come back to y'all to give the actual overview of the document, what's in it, kind of all of the maps, and how that looks, and then also planning to go show that to planning and zoning, and ultimately get approved by city council so that these maps are set and can be, development can be planned off of them and so on.
I have another question. On
For
the critical crossings on Pecan Street, how far east, how far west does that go?
There's 3 identified currently, and they're all through the downtown area. One's at First, one at 10th, and I believe one by the high school.
Okay.
Any other questions about the mobility plan? So, like I said, this is really important for development. It's also important for the developed areas of town. So, while a lot of the expansion of this plan is to the east and the ETJ, there is, as you'll see, there is still a lot of expanded trail network in the older parts of Pflugerville, which is still needed. You know, I know Shane has said this stat a few times, but the industry standard for trails in the Parks and Recreation space is about 1 mile of trail for every 2,000 residents, and we're at 1.5 miles of trail per 2,000 residents. So we're well over that as it stands right now, which is why we're the trail capital of Texas. We have not found a city in Texas that has a higher number than that for 2,000 residents. Just as an aside, that Trail Capital of Texas designation is still working its way through the state legislature, so we'll hope that that gets actually designated here pretty soon. But as Pflugerville grows, we have to make sure that that number either stays the same or rises so that we can continue to offer that high quality of life and connectivity for folks that live in current, what is Pflugerville now and what will be Pflugerville in the future. So y'all will see a lot more of this plan soon, but we wanted Kelly to give y'all kind of an overview of what that process has been like so far and kind of give you an idea of what you're going to see here pretty soon.
Thank you. That was good.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly.
Of course.
Yeah, you're good.
Yep.
We made sure to put Kelly first so she can get home.
Good job. We'll move on. Item 4B, discussion regarding director's update, including information about project status updates, upcoming special events, and staffing.
Okay, so again, I'm sorry that you have to hear me present this instead of Shane. I'll try to be as entertaining, though I think that's impossible. So first, we've been talking about Will Parker Creek Phase 2 for quite some time now, which is the trail extension from existing Will Parker Park to North Cascades Avenue. We officially ribbon cut that this past Saturday, and it includes a dog park, restrooms, and additional parking. Now, I think several of y'all have probably been to ribbon cuttings before, and they can be kind of lame sometimes. And since we were opening what we think is one of the premier dog parks in Central Texas, we had to make it a little bit more fun. So we of course had the mayor cut the ribbon with some council members and our design and construction teams, which was exciting. But we also had Dodge cut his own ribbon, although it did take about 30 seconds. He was really unsure of whether he was supposed to get that bone or not. But it was a really fun time. So Dodge's mom is a park playground influencer. And so she has highlighted a couple of our parks at certain points in time. And he's also got his own Instagram account. So we had a celebrity cut the ribbon for us. And we wanted to share some of our favorite photos of the dog park. This black dog on the left really wants that tennis ball. But as you'll see, this dog park is not just a fenced-in area with a large and small dog park within it. It's got artificial turf. It has play amenities with logs and some wood posts. And then it also has these mounds, which this dog on the left is jumping off of to get that tennis ball, with some limestone seating. So it really is, we're not exaggerating, it's one of the premier public dog parks in the Austin area. And we're really excited about it. We also had kids enjoying the dog park, which was really fun to see. And our special events team partnered with us on this and really made this a great event. So we had some free donuts for folks, free coffee, free popsicles, and that popsicle vendor, which makes the best, I think everyone on staff would agree, the best popsicles in the world, also makes a dog pop. So this dog here was in heaven, and a lot of them were. But that was a really good time. And I would encourage you to get out there and take a look at that park if you haven't been out there yet. And I'll let Jonathan take it away on programs and events. So this is sort of, we still have a lot of things going on, but for those of you that have been on Park Commission, and for you that are new, this is sort of our calm before the storm. So spring's about to start, summer's about to start. Really, we really get going once that gets going. Yep. So
some could say the storm is already starting if you hear the volleyball camp going on. So,
spring break is when it really gets going.
Jonathan Hansen, Rec Superintendent. Just wanted to cover some of the different programs and events that are coming up. We have quite a few senior trips that are going on. We also have Music in the Park coming up on April 4th. That's going to be the Texas Bad Cats, which is like their variety band. That'll be in Pfluger Park. Star Party, which a couple of weeks ago got posted on like a social media group, and we had like 350 people show up to look at the stars, which is pretty incredible. A new program, Wilderness 101, it's kind of like your urban, this is how you survive in the woods. And then for all the senior trips that you see, as a reminder, the goal is to get seniors out while also saving them from having to drive those miles. So through all these trips, we saved them 217 miles over this coming month. I wanted to highlight summer hiring real quick. As Jeff said, this is where things start to really ramp up. What you didn't see is in this room prior to today, there was a lifeguarding class going on. So it's that time of year. We do have lifeguard positions, swim instructor aides, cashiers. We offer lifeguard classes here at the city of Pflugerville. So that's a great opportunity if you know someone who's looking for a position. We also have camp positions, including camp leads and camp counselors that are open. You can find all those on our employment page on the website. And it's already starting. We have our first onboarding on the 22nd of this month.
And I'll add, one of the things we've talked about as an industry quite often is how few kids in high school, even college, understand that Parks and Recreation is a career. And we can attest it's a great career. But a lot of folks that work in leadership in Parks and Rec or have been in it their entire life got their start in these positions. So it's a great way to start not just a summer job, but potentially a career if you know someone who's interested.
Send them our way. And then I wanted to give you a slice of Pflugerville update real quick. So we were able to announce, so save the date real quick, April 26th, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. in downtown Pflugerville. This is the cultural festival event as unique as our name. We're excited to announce that the Spin Doctors are going to be the headlining band for that. They're a Grammy nominated band. They have two really big hits. It's, let me see, Two Princes and Little Miss Can't Be Wrong. So that's your Spotify playlist for the ride home tonight. We also have our community performances that are going to be happening as well. And then vendors. So last year, unfortunately, due to some severe windy weather, we had to cancel our artisan vendors, but those are coming back this year. So we've got 23 of those. And then last year's bike program in total had 9 vendors. Right now we're sitting at 16 vendors, and we still have some more applications coming in. So reminder, you pay $10 for a bike passport and you get a free sample from each one of those. So that's going to be a lot of food for $10. So
Thanks, Jonathan. Any questions for Jonathan? All right. So like I said, we're kind of gearing up for a lot of things. So I thought this was a good time to highlight our state conference this last month, the Texas Recreation and Park Society, which we're members of. This is something that the community, park commissions, councils, they don't really get to see this side of Parks and Recreation very often. You don't really quite understand maybe how your agency is making an impact. I will tell you that Pflugerville was well represented at this conference in particular, but is just well represented at this conference at the national level pretty regularly. Matter of fact, the reason Shane is not here is because he's presenting to the Massachusetts Parks and Recreation Conference this week. He was asked to do a session, so he's up there with a couple of his friends from other states doing a session. Pflugerville is really well known in the Parks and Recreation world. The staff here does a really good job of being involved, trying to drive the industry forward. And I really wanted to highlight this conference that we went to in Allen as kind of proof of that. So Serena Breland, who's our city manager, was actually one of the keynote speakers at one of our general sessions. She did a fantastic job.
She crushed it.
She did crush it. We had a lot of folks coming up to us from other cities saying, "God, I wish Serena was our city manager." After that, she did a really, really great job of just kind of talking about, I would say it was a lot about being yourself in your position, which she does a really great job of and has done a fantastic job here in Pflugerville. So I think she was excited to spread the word across the state. I do our legislative advocacy stuff for for traps, and so I was able to, at the same general session that Serena spoke, I was able to give a legislative advocacy address. So that general session, this conference had over 1,000 attendees. And at that general session, there was 2 speakers, and both of them were from Pflugerville, which is pretty cool. We had 2 session presenters, so we had 2 staff that gave kind of their insight and expertise. Dave was one of them, and I was the other. And we had 3 state maintenance rodeo participants, which is a big deal because to make the state maintenance rodeo, you have to place or win at the regional maintenance rodeo. One of these days we'll bring some videos from the maintenance rodeo. It's pretty neat. They've got a bunch of different, it's the maintenance Olympics basically. They've got a bunch of different activities, contests that have to do with, one's the backhoe competition, which is pretty incredible. They pick up kettlebells with a backhoe and have to move them to certain places for time. There's the zero turn, there's the backpack blower. They're pretty, the nail drive competition, which is a lot more impressive than it sounds. It's pretty cool to watch these park operations staff get to highlight their skills, and I'll tell you, they're very skilled. So traveling to Allen, this was in Allen this year, we had around 20 or so Pflugerville Parks attendees. So like I said, we were well represented in number as well. And then we won some awards. So not only were we there, but we did some pretty cool things. So we won the Excellence in Planning Award for our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan. What's unique about that is the Excellence in Planning Award is not just the best master plan. It's any sort of planning, park planning. I'll tell you, a Parks and Rec master plan would not typically win this award because everyone has one. This award is typically given to somebody who does something in the planning side of the Parks and Recreation industry that sets them apart a little bit. Now, Pflugerville, I can't take any credit for this because I wasn't here when y'all did the Parks, Recreation, Open Space Master Plan. But the community engagement, the way that was put together, and how much data was gathered through that, coming up with the Trail Capital of Texas through that process, totally set this apart. So really what this award says is that Pflugerville has the best Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan in the state. Because those, like I said, those plans do not typically win awards. Everyone has one. But this plan was so far and away better that it beat some of those other innovative plans for that award.
Congratulations.
I can't take any of that, but they did great.
Well, congratulations.
Cordell Alvarado placed in the backhoe competition, so you get a little taste of what that's like in this picture. So they've got 3 kettlebells there, and they have to move them. I think they move them from the top of the trash can onto the plywood, or vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. Yeah.
Wow.
To the trash can.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. And so congratulations to Cordell for placing in that. And then we won the gold medal. So
Nice.
the TRAPS gold medal, they give it in 3 classifications, and it's by size of your city. This is the highest award that the Texas Recreation and Park Society offers. So they've got an award for kind of the professional of the year. It's like a lifetime achievement award. They have an award that goes out to the young professional of the year, and then they have these agency awards. And like I said, this is the highest award you can get. Now, Pflugerville has won this award before. This is not the first time. I don't know when the last one was, 2018, 2017?
Nobody cares.
A little before that? I'll tell you the reason we don't care. So, they had a record number of applications for this award this year, and our application was one of the highest scoring that they've ever had for this award. So not only did we win the gold medal, but in comparing it to past winners of the gold medal, our application scored higher than any of them. So we're very excited about that.
job.
And now
Good
we're
job.
setting our sights on the national gold medal. So
That was a good job.
Who got silver and bronze?
they don't even give it. It's, if you ain't first, you're last.
Like
This
you
also
said,
gives you
who
a good
cares?
idea of how many staff we were able to bring to TRAPS.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing. This was at the awards ceremony, so all the attendees were there, and we got to smile and smirk and give our waves at everybody as we walked up. But yes, so make sure when you see some park staffers outside of this meeting, tell them congrats on the gold medal.
And what size category were we in?
We're in class 3, so it's 50,000 to 150,000, I believe. Could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
I spent about 14 hours putting that application together, so I should know that. But. Okay, any questions about that? That's pretty quick.
Great job.
Great job, guys.
Yeah.
Nice.
Way to represent.
Okay, 5A, discuss and consider action on Parks and Recreation 5-year capital improvement plan, the CIP.
Okay, so we talked about this at the last meeting. We went and did an overview of the park projects that we've got over the next 5 years. So I'll go pretty quickly over these since we've already reviewed them. But if you have questions, or if questions came up between then and now, please feel free to stop me and I'll answer as best I can. So we're doing the 5-year CIP projects review. We'll start with our bond projects. So as we've talked to y'all about a few times at this point, the Downtown East Rec Center, which if you drive on 685, you've seen the ground is broken, and they're really getting started on that. It's a 140,000 square foot facility. It's going to be the second largest recreation center in the state. We did see the first largest rec center in the state while we were up in Allen, because it's in Allen. We still think ours is going to be better, even though theirs is 9,000 square feet bigger. With its 4 high school sized basketball courts, 8 middle school courts, 4 volleyball courts, 12 plus pickleball, state of the art fitness and cardio area, an indoor aquatics area, the indoor turf.
What's the indoor aquatics? What exactly is that?
So it's, you can't really see this picture, but do I not have a mouse? There we go. So it's on this side of the building.
Okay.
And it's primarily recreational. It's not going to be like an indoor natatorium. It'll have 2 slides. One of them will be the first stand-up indoor slide in America. And it's going to have a little wave pool that can be used for, kids can get in it and go around, or it can be used in the mornings for rec therapy. It'll have a 0 entry area with a tree that we tried to get them as close as we could to emulate Big Shady, the pecan tree at Gilliland, which we're pretty excited about. And then it'll have 3 lap lanes that are 20 meters, so they're not quite competition, but they'll be great for a workout. We've got an indoor turf area that's right here on the first floor. This is one of the unique there's a lot of unique aspects about this facility, but this is one of the coolest. that'll have a turf ramp that goes up to the second floor to the weight room, which is right here. So folks will be able to do their, hills or their sprints or their farmer's carries or whatever uphill, going from the first floor turf to the second floor. It'll also have an adventure track in the gym, which is not just, we've got the track around the gym here. This is going to be that plus an additional loop that has stairs that go up and down, and it's got some cardio equipment, some weight equipment on one side. So it's more than just a walk if you want it to be. And then as you can see up here, this is the 300-person event space on the third floor. And then there's a couple of activity rooms, whether they're classrooms or for whatever rental spaces up here, with this patio that's overlooking the plaza and City Hall, which will be behind where this photo is taken. So it'll be a pretty incredible facility. Like I said, it's not the biggest, but it's the second biggest, and we would put it up against any facility in the country. Part of this is land acquisition. So part of what went towards that 5.6 million was the purchase for the recreation center property. So downtown East, that whole property had some of this money go to it for the Parks and Recreation space. So for the rest of it, it will be recreation space, potentially destination play, which we've talked about, and we'll talk about again here shortly. But we also are currently in the middle of an athletic field feasibility study. So that's looking at where we are deficient in athletic fields. And we know for all the great things that we are doing here in Pflugerville, athletic space is something that's a little left to be desired. We've got a lot of needs there. So that study will let us know where we can, where we're deficient, and then it will designate certain pieces of property in the ETJ or around the city that could be purchased and used for athletic fields. So some of this money may go towards that once that study's completed as well. 1849 Park, that's under construction. We've talked quite a bit about this. All told, that's a $16 million project. That does include some it's actually ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act funds. So phase 2 is what you see there. It's 2 baseball fields, a softball field, and an event space. It'll also have a playground, what they're calling the field house, with a concession stand, a changing room for umpires, and then a pavilion. And then phase 1B is adding on to what is current 1849 Park, so adding about 600 parking spots, I believe, and then adding lights, field lights to the football fields. So those are going on now. If you go out to 1849, you'll see a lot of construction happening. We've got 2 separate contractors, one working on 2 and one working on phase B. So phase 1B will be completed, scheduled to be completed by the middle of this year, and then phase 2 by the end of this year. Lake Pflugerville Park phase 2A. It gets a little confusing with all the numbers and letters added together. But phase 2A of Lake Pflugerville Park is mainly what you see right here, which is some added hardscapes to where the beach is, play areas, splash pads, trying to make this more of a year-round facility, because right now it's great for trail walking, it's great for the beach when the weather is nice, but there's not a lot of play value there now, so this would be adding tremendously to that, adding shade structures, adding additional walkways, and a lot of extra play components. Murchison Mallard Pond Park, you actually won't see on the 5-year CIP because that's going to be completed this year, but did want to include it. This is a $1.1 million park. It's part of our neighborhood park expansion. There was a 2013, I think, undeveloped park master plan, and so our 2020 bond tackled that plan. And so this is a playground, pollinator garden, open space, and trails. Whereas currently Mallard Pond Park, I think, is up here, and then Murchison Park is, we don't really have what it is designated. Some area around here. Yeah. So we haven't decided the name. It's Murchison/Mallard.
It's Murchison.
Murchison/Mallard.
Murchison.
There we go. That answers our question, Isaac. It's Murchison. Piccadilly Park was also one of those designated through the undeveloped park master plan. though there are some issues with this, and it's going to be delayed a little bit because this is all floodway, and there's a lot of drainage improvements that are going to happen in this area of Gillen Creek to get a lot of these folks out of flood danger, essentially. So while we have a design for this park, it's more of a nature park, this really is not going to be able to happen the way that it was conceptually designed, because all this is going to change. So if we went in and put this park here how it was designed, there is a chance that as they go through the drainage planning process, that a lot of this would have to come out. So we're talking about the idea of working with those drainage improvements, and instead of just building a park, having a trail connection from Piccadilly down to Grand Avenue along the creek. There's currently not a trail there. So like I said earlier, when Kelly was here, a lot of our new trails will be in newly developed areas, but some of them are in our older parts of town that still have space that we can develop those trails. There's also potential for connections to the north. This is Round Rock, and then it connects right to Austin. So there's a trail, I believe, that's supposed to get constructed that is in Austin or Round Rock that comes this way. So this might be one of our connection points between other communities as well. Kelly Lane Park is another part of that undeveloped park master plan from the 2020 bond. This is a $1.9 million project that will include, amongst a playground, pollinator garden, and some trail extensions, it will also have our first outdoor pickleball courts in our city. So we imagine those will be pretty popular. Destination play is what we talked, I think, at length about at our last meeting. But the location of this is to be decided, but this is a destination playground that we hope will attract people from around the region. So we use this photo. This is in Cary, North Carolina. This is kind of in one of their downtown areas. And we use this photo, one, because we're working with this landscape architecture firm, TBG, who is doing the Old Town Park master plan. And so you can kind of see some of the things that they've done, but it's also a way to reimagine what you think of as a playground. Not just building a playground with some trail connections and a restroom and some benches and swing set. We really want this to be immersive play, have a lot of inclusive elements for kids with special needs, families that have additional needs, and so our hope is that this is something that's really grand, really brings people to our city. And then CIP projects, those are all bond projects. So the historic water tank in Old Town Park, we talked about this again at length, and y'all have been, the new folks on the commission didn't really get to be part of this, but the Parks Commission was one half of the steering committee for the Old Town Park master plan. And again, this is really creating a gathering place around what is a iconic landmark in Pflugerville in the water tower that doesn't currently exist. So this is still in the master plan phase. Has not been, it's been lunch and learned with city council, but not quite been to a work session or approved by council yet. They're kind of putting the finishing touches after the lunch and learn with city council. And then we'll start to get into design on this. Wells Point Park improvements. We'll receive new lights and a lot of facility improvements. This is the third most used park in our park system. About 80,000 visits a year. And if you go out there on a Saturday, you will see a good portion of those 80,000 visits. And that's up from 70,000 in 2023. So use of these facilities is going up. This goes back to what I said about that athletic field feasibility study. We are deficient in athletic facilities, and so the ones that we do have are getting well used. And so we're looking to improve this over the next couple of years. Yes, ma'am.
I leave out, will it break quorum?
What's that?
I leave out, will it break quorum?
I can't hear what you're
No,
saying.
it won't, because we'll have 4.
I'll be
Oh.
right.
I'll be right behind you in a few minutes anyways.
Am I taking that long?
It has nothing to do with you, Jeff. Okay.
The Lake Pflugerville Boardwalk and Pier Replacement is another part of the PDR, which is a preliminary design report that was approved by council in 2019 for Lake Pflugerville. This is a boardwalk network and 2 covered overlooks for the lake. Lake Pflugerville Park Phase 2B, hope y'all are getting all these numbers and letters, is a complete redesign of the Bailey House property. This will include a community garden, demonstration gardens, a greenhouse, and a nature center with classrooms and an event lawn that we're very excited about. It's not something that we have in Pflugerville. I think that it'll be widely used by schools, by nonprofit organizations, even, you know, if we design it well enough, weddings, all kinds of events will occur out here. And then the Lake Pflugerville Trailhead, which is a western trailhead along Silent Harbor Loop. So they'll have walkways, site structures, some additional parking, not a lot, but a little bit, a small restroom facility, lighting, and landscaping. 1849 Park Phase 3, because this project never ends, is the north side. So 1849 Park actually looks like a huge T, which if you go out there now, you wouldn't notice that. But 1849 Park Phase 3 is part of this phase up here. It's not the whole thing, but it's most of this area over here, I believe. I could be wrong about that. Yep. So this includes a festival area, playground, an amphitheater, restrooms, covered picnic seating, and a large group pavilion. It'll have a lot of wildflower, prairie preserve, nature trails. Again, as the trail capital of Texas, most of our trails are 10-foot sidewalks, which is great for accessibility and connectivity. But with this development, we'll have a lot more nature-based trails. So kind of think of visiting a state park, single track, you know, in between the trees type of trails. And then it'll have a 5-acre dog park, which we have very high expectations of at this point after opening Wilbarger on Saturday. Some small parking will be on this northwest side as well.
Why such a small parking area?
It's not small. I would say small for the size of for a 300 acre development, but I think it's, if I remember correctly, and this is just conceptual. So when we get to design, any of this can be updated based on our needs. But I think it's like 100, 150 spots.
Okay.
It could be more than that, because if you look at this and you think that's probably about 400 spots there, and this is the parking.
Okay.
Again, it's conceptual, so we don't really have exact numbers on that, just have spaces. Our Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan update. So again, talking about having high expectations for a plan. After you make one award-winning plan, 5 years later you have to update it. So that keeps us in compliance with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. So if we wanted to go out for some local park grants, we do have to, this is something we are required to have, is a 5-year update. Yeah. Our downtown trail corridor study. This is a study that would evaluate the trail development and improvement opportunities from Finnick Park to Bowles Park. So think looking at a trail corridor, especially one that's as popular as that area, and master planning it in a way that we're adding amenities to it. So it's not just the trail experience, it's you know, what you can get along the way. And then it's also important in, so destination play, there's potential sites for destination play sort of towards Bowles Park, maybe Bowles Park itself. And there's going to be a crucial connection point between this building here, even though this, you know, who knows what happens with this, but Bowles Park, this area, that kind of trail corridor going along Pecan and downtown east. We want to make sure that's all kind of one cohesive space. And this trail study will help us do that. And then also going north and west along Gillen Creek. Our annual trail outlay, this is obviously incredibly important as the trail capital of Texas. Like I mentioned when Kelly was here as well, we'll add a lot of trails as development comes in, but we have a lot of work to fill trail gaps. So if two developments don't quite meet, we have to fulfill that gap. And then a lot of our already developed spaces around town, we're required to, where we want to designate trails, we got to do that. This is also part of our ADA master plan, so a lot of what we do is guided by that council approved plan to include a lot of our DG transitions from decomposed granite to concrete that we've done over the last year. That's part of this as well. That's about 1.16 million per year that we invest in our trails. And then future park development. This is left a little open-ended. Our hope on this park development is to do something in the historic color tradition that will kind of tell the history of that community, be a space for the community that's still there to enjoy that, but again, connecting it to the community at large. And so that's sort of at the end of our 5-year CIP, and you'll see that here shortly. So when you look at the 5-year CIP, you're not looking at current year, you're looking at the next year and then moving on to 2030 now, which sounds crazy to me. I would imagine sounds crazy to everybody. So what council will do once they finally get this, once it gets to them, is they're approving FY 2026 over the next couple months. Now, the 5-year CIP obviously includes 5 years. So you're saying when council approves a 5-year CIP plan, when you approve it, you're saying that these are the things that we plan on doing, but we're not funding those outside of FY 26. Does that make sense? So you'll see it, and you'll see as we go, it sort of gets a lot smaller, and I'll kind of explain why. So CIP in 2026, we've got a lot of projects. Some of those are finishing up, so you'll still see 1849 Park Phase 1 and 2 on there for a pretty small amount, because construction for that project is going to go into the next fiscal year, which starts on October 1st. And again, you'll see several parks like that. Kelly Lane Park will start construction this year, but it won't finish. So part of that is stretched into fiscal year 26. And then you've got Lake Pflugerville Park Phase 2A. This is what we discussed with that north side of the park around the beach. That will start construction in the next fiscal year. So you'll see a bulk of that, those funds start in FY 26. And then you see some smaller numbers here for those other phases that we're a little bit more than that, but that's typically, bless you, that's design. Design will start on some of those projects before we get into construction. And so like I said, so FY 27, CIP in 2027, you've got some of those projects finishing now, and then you've got some of them kind of gearing up to get started, like Phase 2B of Lake Pflugerville Park.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
On the dollar amount that's up there, is that, like for example, that first one, that 1,100,000, is that part of the original budgeted number, or is that additional?
It depends on which one you're asking. Which one?
The Old Town Park. Let's just look at that first line item.
On the next page.
Okay, so there
this
you
one?
have Old Town Park, 1,100,000.
Yep.
You go back to is that part of the original budget, or is that additional?
So
money?
so some of them are additional. So that's
Okay.
asking for additional funds.
Okay.
Now, again, just because it's approved here, and even if the CIP is approved by council, those funds still have to be approved.
Got
So
it.
that master plan hasn't gone to council yet, so they'll still make those recommendations. They'll get budget amounts. So this is a plan. We're approving the plan. As far as the funding goes, council will decide what's funded in FY 26. They'll decide that pretty close to FY 26, around August or September. But they'll start getting some of these numbers in the coming months. And so you'll see this list get smaller and smaller, and that doesn't mean that in 2029 and in 2030, we're going to be working on one project. What it means is that by that point, probably by 2026, we'll have finished our athletic feasibility study. We'll have finished our master mobility plan. And so what that means is that there will be athletic projects that are added to this. They're not currently on here because we don't know what the direction of those is yet. The mobility plan, there may be larger trail gaps or larger trail projects that we aren't aware of yet until that plan is finalized and approved by council. The trail corridor study, when we start that in 2026, that's going to designate some projects that should happen along that trail connection. So there'll be projects that come out of that. And then a lot of these projects came from the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan that we did in 2023, that we completed in 2023. So once this master plan is completed in 2029, there'll be some other projects for 2030 and after that come from that plan. So it looks like we're not spending a lot of money in 2030, but 2026 wouldn't have looked like that 5 years ago either. So things change based on basically public engagement plans that we get finalized through this process. Any questions? Okay, so this is a discuss and consider.
This isn't really necessarily within the realm of this plan, I don't think, but as far as when the new rec center and new city hall are built, I mean, is there any kind of plan, I think Parks probably has some say on what happens to the rec center, but is there any?
For this building?
Yeah,
That's still being discussed. So I wish I had a better answer than that for you, but I don't.
There's
Yeah.
a whole lot of people that want it.
Yeah. And so that's considered, and then obviously when you open a new rec center, there's a whole lot of staffing, there's a whole lot of expenses that come from that. You'll generate a lot more revenue. But we were tasked with 70% cost recovery on our new rec center, and so it's going to have some cost associated with running that facility. So all that's being considered, is this a facility that we can keep open or do something else with it, get creative, get innovative with what it looks like.
In the new rec center, I'm presuming there will be meeting spaces like what we're sitting in right now.
There are.
And so how close will those meeting spaces be to basketball courts?
They are up 2 floors away.
There's also better soundproofing.
And as a matter of fact, it's funny you bring that up.
Yeah.
We've had I don't know, 5 hours of meetings about the soundproofing
Specific,
between
yeah.
one of the big
Awesome.
issues that we're coming up with solutions for is the weight room is right above the administrative offices. And so when
Wow.
someone's deadlifting and
Yeah.
they drop it,
Making sure they're still awake.
they're gonna, that's right. So, yes.
Or a dumbbell doesn't fall through you.
All you have to do is sit in this room
Better be-
for about 10 minutes on a Thursday night to realize how important soundproofing is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And so the event center is just one big room?
it's one
No,
big
any
room that can be
amenities?
separated, but it'll be a rental space. So it'll be attached to a kitchen that
Okay.
will also be a teaching kitchen, which is a pretty neat amenity. But yeah, it's what you would think of. It's going to be very, very nice, and I would imagine y'all will get an update on what the design is looking like at some point over the next couple months.
I'm looking for
But it's-
sound equipment and lights. I know there's not gonna be a stage, I got that, but
Yeah, sound equipment we haven't talked a ton about, but I imagine it's going to have some integrated sound.
Yeah, it's also set up to have like a DJ, those kind of things come in and plug in their own equipment and run things.
So the powers.
yeah, good. Now, it started getting louder after I mentioned that.
That's right. I don't know if that's because it actually got louder or if that's because we noticed it now.
That
But
mom voice. Settle down in there.
Let's give them something to talk about over there.
So yeah, that's the 5-year CIP. So that's planning 2026 to 2030, which again is numbers that kind of make me sad to write on a presentation. 2030 is coming up pretty soon.
Right around the corner.
But
Goodness
Yeah.
gracious.
if you have any more questions, y'all will vote on this now.
We're gonna vote today.
Do we have
How many, do we have quorum at least left?
You've got 4.
Whew. That's a lot of pressure.
and I guess the question is too, is can we delay a vote until we do have
That's
more
what I
people
was
for
fixing to say.
representation?
I was fixing to say the same thing.
That seemed like a big.
How far out are we from having to present it to the next level?
So this has to go, that may be like a special called meeting, because this has to go to the CIP Advisory Committee, which I think is next month.
Okay.
And I
So
guess,
sounds-
I mean,
Sounds like we have to vote on it then.
yeah, I mean, I'm
It's
wondering,
gonna
and
be-
you guys, I think, know our fellow commissioners pretty well. I mean, there's nothing in here that really, raises my eyebrows in any particular way that I think anyone else would really find, unpalatable. But
Okay, so we'll do that. Do we have a motion to approve?
Approve.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 0.
I've got one small question, actually, on all the numbers. So all these numbers could fluctuate still?
They absolutely could,
Okay.
though
Yeah.
we do incorporate contingencies into
Yeah.
this and try as best we can to think about inflation, though these mostly, and Isaac might be able to speak to this a little better, these mostly do represent today's numbers.
And with the plan that we approved for that budget? Not, one of the parks isn't gonna get smaller later after we've approved.
So
some budget?
again, yeah, so this will come to you every year. So you'll see 2030 5 times.
Okay.
So it'll be every year. And we'll take that as it comes. So once we get closer, again, we're only asking council to fund this year FY26. We're not technically asking them to fund all these projects through
Okay.
2030. So those numbers can change. If the will of the community changes and they want to see a park project get larger, they want to see more to something, we can do that. We're flexible and adaptable. This is more a roadmap for what it is that we're looking at over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I just didn't know how close of a budget, like the destination was.
Playscape.
Yeah, Playscape was
Yeah,
what,
and
five?
we do work with consultants, design teams to try to get what's called an OPC, opinion of probable cost. So we're not just throwing numbers on a wall and
Yeah.
seeing what it is. But again, without design, they can only give you so much. They can say, this is what comparable projects have cost, this is what this sort of amenity typically costs. And then once you get in design, that's when you nail down those numbers.
So they give you an estimate cost of that picture that, from, what was that, Charlotte, or?
Cary, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I don't think they quite gave us that park. I can show you some more pictures as to why they didn't. It's probably a $25 or $30 million park.
Oh.
But you get blue.
But those types of amenities, that's considerably larger than what we're thinking here.
Okay.
But yes, they're able to look at that and say, okay, this is the level of development that you were looking for in whatever space you have. So they'll come up with the OPC that matches that.
Did any of the numbers, we didn't see the breakdown or anything, I'm just curious about art and public places. Did any of the numbers incorporate that into the budget?
So some of it will, like the destination play will have some of that built into it.
Okay.
But we also, as y'all know, because you'll see the art, well, those that are new, you'll approve art as we go. A lot of that's funded through our HOT funds.
Got it.
So yes, and no, because it may be funded elsewhere.
Gotcha.
It still may be incorporated into some of these projects.
Okay, item 5B, discuss and consider action regarding creating a Dark Sky Subcommittee.
Okay, we don't have to go too deep into this because again, this is a review. A lot of this is a review of last meeting, but it did seem like the committee wanted to commission a subcommittee for the Dark Sky Initiative, knowing it's going to be a tall order for our city, being as urban as we are and as close to a city center as we are, but that there's elements of this that the committee really liked. So, as a reminder, there's not a lot of cities like us that are listed on the International Dark Sky Places in Texas, but that doesn't mean that a subcommittee could not come through and take a look at some of our practices and see how we can emulate some of these cities a little bit or some of these places a little bit. So I think first, let's see. Yeah, first what we need to do is consider adding a Dark Sky Subcommittee and vote on that.
Do we have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to create a dark sky subcommittee.
do we have a second?
So, yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Now here's the fun one.
Yes, discuss and consider action regarding Dark Sky Subcommittee appointments.
I would wait.
I make a
I'd say
motion to
let's-
table this to the next meeting.
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
agreed.
people that aren't here?
Yes, I thank you.
You guys
Like
did
that
that for, you know, Witching Fest, so.
Do I have a
As soon as you
second?
lose.
I second that motion.
Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The
Any
only
opposed?
problem with,
There's no problem. I mean, we need
well,
to
no,
have
no,
the
no.
other members here.
The only problem I was gonna say is if you tell them this is why we tabled it, they might not show up the next time.
Well,
You
that's
guys
when
may
you
not
put
show
those
up.
people on.
Now you guys know. Okay, so here we go. Item 6, Tree Care Advisory Board, 6A, discussion regarding urban foresters update.
That's
You
Dave.
guys back here in the back corner.
Sorry, I was doing work that I've been pushing off for.
I don't blame you.
Dave, remind me of your last name.
Madden, just like the football guy, or the shoe guy if you're
Boom.
fashionable.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not into sports and I'm not fashionable, so I'm just gonna spell it like it's.
all right.
just like Dave Madden.
There's a famous flautist in Ireland with the last name Ireland.
That's where I was
Madden.
getting
the
it
guy.
from. I know exactly who you're talking
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I was told to keep it short this time because y'all had a lot going on. And so we're just going to talk about some of the tree planting that we've gotten done this season and the very small amount of planting season we got left, what we're going to be doing coming up. So, and an update on the Inflation Reduction Act grant. So, Inflation Reduction Act, urban, I didn't change it again. So I copied and pasted this. It's supposed to be UCF, not UFC.
This is a fighting.
Urban
Sport
Expansion.
reference, here we go.
Yeah,
I didn't know to edit that. I thought there was just something that had to do with
yeah.
UFC.
It's we're pretty violent in the urban forestry community. No, so for just as an update, we were awarded part of the Inflation Reduction Act under the Biden administration to reforest select neighborhoods in Pflugerville that were deeply impacted by our recent climate events and just targeted neighborhoods that might not have been able to, not every resident would have been able to replace those trees that were lost and damaged. It was all selected through a map provided by the EPA based on census data and environmental data. So far, it was it was gonna end up being 4 years. We needed to get at least 80 trees in the ground in these neighborhoods. In those 4 years, each of those years to meet the goal of getting at least 335 in. We done 3 so far this planting season with 1 left. We've gotten 71 in the ground already. We're gonna probably get close to 100 by the end of it. We got 1 more planting event coming up on the April 5th. So if y'all wanna plant some trees, we prep the site so it makes it easy for everybody.
Do you know the location? Do you know the neighborhood, for example?
It's gonna be, so the Windermere neighborhood south of
Okay.
the creek, and then 2 other subdivisions whose names I can't remember, but they all butt up right there. On the website, we mapped it out, so if you're in this map, you can go. We are no longer taking applications for this, unfortunately. One is we had to close it anyway for this planting season because we have to go ahead and order the trees. Secondly, bad news, the funding's been canceled. So it was, the exact words were, it no longer effectuates agency priorities regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and activities. So, being federally funded, we just got cut. We are looking at tapping into different funding sources so that we can keep this program or something similar to it going. And then the Arbor Day Foundation, our pass-through organization, they were the ones that were given this whole big bunch of money and they distributed it to us little guys. They're appealing the decision. I don't think they have a whole lot of hope, but they're trying. So
And we've talked with Dave and Shane quite a bit about this. We are going to try to continue this program as much as we can. Obviously, funding may come from us instead of the federal government, but we obviously felt this was an important enough program to do if the feds were funding it, so why wouldn't it be important enough to do if we're going to fund it? So there's still some opportunities for us to complete this program. Pretty disappointing.
It is. We love trees.
Was that funding for this year? I mean, I assume there were some funds before those executive orders came through and agency or administration changes, but how much funding did we get from the IRA before?
So we were awarded $150,000. We spent about 30 of it, because it was supposed to be a 5-year program. And then of course we got awarded in May, and so we can't plant yet. So, so it ended up being like a 4-year program for us. But yeah, it was supposed to be stretched out over time. So,
Gotcha.
but we were able to we're gonna probably get close to 100 in after our last one, April 5th. So, still made a pretty good impact in the community, I feel. But anyway, are we talking about happier stuff now?
Yes.
All right. So these are the other planting initiatives that we did. We've gotten done so far. We got 25 trees in at at various schools, Pflugerville ISD. Those of you that have been here for a little while, that is less than typical. Usually we get a lot more in. The reason is this time I required them to provide a watering and maintenance plan.
Right.
And we had a lot less schools sign up. We also have a higher chance of those 25 trees actually surviving it till next year. So, and I didn't need like arborist certificates. I didn't even need an irrigation system. I just kind of needed just tell me someone's going to water this tree. That's all you really needed to do. So, and then we planted some trees in Lake Pflugerville parking lot. Stonehill, we planted some more trees out there. Some of them were replacing dead trees, some of them were adding new. And then this picture actually is from the Pflugerville Park riparian area. We did some invasive species removal and some tree planting. It was all done by the Parks Foundation, even though I might not partner with them anymore because they can't spell foundation right. I keep telling them to redo it. But
You want
now,
it with the P?
yeah, it's got to have. It's a requirement. I think that's in our code of ordinance. So it's not. Don't look that up. But yeah, then we had some of the citizen foresters come out and join us, which I really thought was good. They didn't all wear their shirts. Jennifer, who's part of the foundation, is also a citizen forester, and she chose not to wear her citizen forester shirt.
Yep.
So we're gonna probably get patches made so she can put it on her foundation shirt. And to give out to the other citizens. We're not gonna pay $30 for one patch. We'll buy a bulk of them to give out to the citizen foresters over the years. And then, so Memorial Tree Program, we have one already in the ground from this year. And then the Santa Tree Claus tree delivery, probably my favorite program that I started since I got here, but probably the least impactful, realistically. But it's the funnest.
With a P.
Yeah, it's the funnest. But basically, at Arbor Day and Deutschenfest, we have sign-in sheets and we have different tree species available. And anyone who signs up, Santa Tree Claus, who's Santa Claus's cousin, will actually deliver the tree for them. So.
That's a great idea, I like
Yeah.
that.
All right, and then with the Windermere Planting Project and all this, it worked out to be an even 200 so far in the ground or distributed. And then what we got coming up, so this is where it gets kind of, this next month is pretty hectic as far as planting. So we're gonna be doing another Parks Foundation joint project. Pfluger Farms Riparian Project, we're gonna get about 500 seedlings, so these are the little trees, the first years, and we're gonna put them in riparian area.
Tell me what riparian needs, you probably have told us, but I forgot what it means.
Oh, it's the area along kind of a body of
Yes,
water.
yes,
It's
I remember that,
immediate
okay.
area over there. So, and then I'm not sure if we can count all 500 towards our goal of planting, because we really only expect about 25% of those seedlings to actually survive because there's no post care. It is a good site, and we're going to select a very diverse group of species that should be there, they would be endemic to Pflugerville. So they have the best chance of making it. But yeah, it's a set it and forget it. Is that George Foreman? Is that his rule? Just set it and forget it.
Yet another
Anyway.
sports reference.
Yeah. And then,
Is that a sports reference or a cooking
I
reference?
think it's like
A cookie.
It's not George Foreman, I can picture that.
Who is it?
I think if you set and forget a George Foreman grill, you're gonna catch your house on fire.
Yeah.
Poe Peel was a guy.
Oh, was it? Just set it and forget it. Anyway, then we got our
So
last
sorry to
IRA
distract you.
planting coming up. That's about 25. Even though we've shut down the ability to request a tree, the people that have already been on the list and they're just kind of slowly trickling in, we're going to do our best to get them in. So we still have, if we end up the last minute people saying, hey, can I get that tree? And I'm like, it's the 4th. I'll still tell them yes. We'll just have to figure it out. So, but as long as if they've already signed up, we can't take any new people. So, and then Earth Day, there's a question mark next to how many trees you might give out because that is a tree giveaway. We'll have a bunch of 3-gallon native trees, Texas natives. So people just kind of grab what they want. And then the Lake Pflugerville North. So the little horseshoe, if you look at the map of Lake Pflugerville, I call it the horseshoe. I don't think anyone else does, but now it's public record, so it's going to stick. There is existing water line out there. There's no electricity, so we got a solar system put in there so that we can have actual irrigation valves put in place. That's been kind of a nightmare apparently. So I think it's because irrigators aren't electricians, and so it's all there. It all exists. It just doesn't work. So it's all been put into place.
It's kind of like
been-
I-35.
Yeah, the same irrigators that put it in and have told me, oh, we'll get it fixed. We're going to get it fixed. Have told me that it's going to be another week. So I was hoping a few weeks ago when that project started that we would be able to squeeze in a volunteer effort to get those 20 spots that are now not irrigated, that are now marked for irrigation, planted. But we'll probably hopefully do that in-house. Juniors guys really like it when I say, hey, last minute planting projects.
We're here to support, Dave.
Yeah, we just really want to get them in the ground before the summer heat kicks in. And then additionally, so the Memorial Tree Program, we got 3 other inquiries. So I'm going to go scout out a location for someone next week. And then we got a woman who reached out a while back, and I called her and left her voicemails. I probably need to email her. I forget people don't answer phone calls anymore.
They don't listen to voicemail.
So, yeah. But yeah, definitely need to email her. But it's actually, we'll probably tie it in. It's in that same area that we almost have irrigated. So we'll tie it in with that irrigation. So hopefully by the end of it, planting season 24-25, we'll have about 750 trees either in the ground or given to people to put in the ground. Hopefully.
Awesome.
And I'll adjust that for the 25%. We'll call that,
So about the funding, I mean, this is a very naive question, because I don't know how it runs with the city of Pflugerville, but I'm really big on sponsorships. And I was thinking of sponsorships like Home Depot, corporate sponsorships, that type of thing. Donating trees that, okay, I'll put it this way. We run a food pantry. We get a lot of canned food that it's almost about to expire, but it's still edible. So there may be some trees out there that they can't sell them to the public, but they could give them. Has that been explored, or is that a concept that you guys are interested in?
So I'm definitely interested. I'm actually picking up some donated trees tomorrow. Is it tomorrow, Friday? Man, this week is
Yep.
just long.
Yeah.
Anyway, tomorrow, someone just grew them in their pot and they didn't find a place to plant them, so they grew them from seeds. Yeah, we'll take them. We'll put them underwater and we'll find a place inside of Pflugerville to put them.
Well, and I realize that the defunding is recent. It's kind of catching you guys off guard, but I just wonder about putting that out to the public. We need trees.
Even Green Sleeves, the new nursery that took over Green and
Right,
Growing, maybe.
right.
Might be interested.
Yeah. But I
Trying to
don't-
get a good name with the city,
Yeah.
potential customer.
But going back to the schools, I'm a little bit surprised that, I can understand if nobody wanted the responsibility of watering the trees outside of, okay, well, if you take on the job of watering the trees, you get to name the tree and it becomes your pet tree, that kind of stuff, especially with elementary. Was any of that brought about, or was it just, here's your tree, you know?
It's kind of been every time I talk to somebody in a school, it's an adopt a tree program.
Yeah,
So every time I talk to somebody at school, I tell them like, hey, if you think that your students would be interested in this, give me a call. And every single teacher has been excited about it. And then I know only one school in particular that I can prove this. Once it goes higher than the teacher level, that kind of gets canned.
so the administration level.
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
think about it.
Well, I just think it needs to be made clear, you adopt a dog,
Yeah.
you take care of that dog, you adopt a tree, it's the same thing.
Well, you know, what I ran into, I was part of that, you know, going out to the schools, and what I ran into was talking to the principals and the coordinator. And they said, well, last year or last season, we were able to water the tree while school was in session. But nobody waters a tree during
Summer.
May all the way through August.
Okay,
So that was part of it also. You know,
Okay,
yeah, they
well,
can
there's
take
a-
care of the tree during the school season or school year.
Right.
But after that, you know,
oh,
it's,
there's an election coming up,
yeah, well.
so make that one of the,
And that's why you were
Point.
asking, to make sure they get a watering plan for irrigation, not just, we're gonna carry a bucket of water and go water
Right.
the tree.
And I would even accept that as a watering
Yeah.
plan, as
Well-
long as someone says that they're gonna do it.
Yeah, but,
anything.
and that's what they ran into was, yeah, they would do it all the way till May 23rd or whatever the last day of school was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then start again August 13th or whatever the
And
day
we
was.
need them to do it during the summertime.
Yeah.
so that's when you get the summer school and the PACE kids to step up and,
Well, and I was thinking maybe this time, and I was gonna talk to y'all when we get a little closer to it, but offering them, cause I have a couple that I use around town for watering city trees, but a hose reel with 300 feet of hose. So that way, we can, and we'll give it to you. You get 5 trees and this mobile hose reel with wheels. It's got 300 feet of hose.
it's totally cool.
So you
Really
just gotta
fun,
have,
yeah.
be within 300 feet of a school and someone come once a week in the summertime to soak trees,
Yeah, there's gotta be some kind of incentive.
How many schools do we have? We have quite a few schools.
It was 5.
Give one to, yeah,
Oh, it was just 5?
yeah.
It's
Oh my
5 schools,
gosh.
because we offer up to 5 trees each, so.
I thought you were talking like, all the elementary school, 22, 23, 5, all that kind of stuff. You're just talking about 5 schools?
Oh, was it all elementary or was it middle school, high school?
No, we got middle school, high school, all of them, so. But,
Yeah, so the higher up you get in school, you're gonna have to do some monetary considerations. Yeah, it's a little bit different with elementary.
Speaking from experience.
well, I'm not gonna badmouth ISD.
No,
But I do-
just bring it to their attention that,
But no, part of my other foot is on the planning and development side, so I've had to deal with plan sets that come in from
Yeah.
ISD, so. Anyway,
you're busy. Got it.
am I dismissed?
You're just.
All right.
Oh, good job. Thank you so
job.
much
Thank
for
you.
the info. Oh, look at that. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
You can
Nobody.
stay the night.
Good job, guys.